السلام عليكم.
السلام عليكم يوسف.
مرحبا وألف ألف مرحبا. As we say in Morocco, نهار كبير. This is a very big day.
Thank you.
I'm really honored to have you, Lalla Maryam, with us.
Thank you very much.
مرحبا بك again. I would love to introduce you, but I don't think I will have enough words or good words, inshallah, to introduce you. So I will let you do that.
It's very kind of you. Let's be very simple. My name is Maryam Bigdeli. I'm the WHO representative in Morocco for the World Health Organization.
جميل. منظمة الصحة
العالمية.
العالمية. جميل. So how long you have been in this?
I've been in Morocco for 5 years, since 2018, with the World Health Organization. But I've been with the WHO since 23 years now, and I've lived in several different countries.
Wow. We're going to go back
world.
to these countries.
Yes.
But before that, I would love to ask you, since you know our podcast is all about language, language learning, and all that, how would you describe your relationship with languages?
Very interesting question. Well, I was born in Iran and raised in Iran for several years. So my actual mother tongue is Farsi. And I've been in school in Farsi, and I can write and read and write, obviously. But then we immigrated in Belgium. First time when I was 7 years old, and then later on during the Iran-Iraq war, we went back and forth between Belgium and Iran. So I learned French. And over the time, French has become my sort of like actual mother tongue. I mean, the language I think in, or I dream in, etc. But as you can hear, my English is also quite fluent in a sense, because we traveled a lot around the world, both with my parents and then after that myself. So English has become a very fluent language as well. And then we lived in many countries with my family, because I traveled for WHO, especially in Laos and in Cambodia in Southeast Asia, and now in Morocco. And for me, I don't think of living in a country without trying at least to learn the language of that country.
Awesome.
So that's I think a very important thing to do when you live in a foreign country.
Awesome. And yes, it's important for so many reasons to integrate, to understand people, and so.
Yes.
And you have been learning Darija, so I know that very well.
You've been trying to teach me.
I won't pretend that like I know. And you've been amazing with that. And we're gonna talk about specifically learning Darija, but you cited so many languages before that. You said your mother tongue, or like two mother tongues, like, which is Farsi, Persian, and French.
French, yes.
How is the relationship between these two, and how do you connect with each one?
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, my relation with Farsi is a bit complicated. It's a language. Well, it's a very complicated relationship with Farsi. It's a beautiful language. I find it really beautiful. I love it, and at the same time, it's difficult for me to connect to it emotionally, both in positive and negative ways. It's a language that I learned and unlearned and relearned multiple times in my life. Because, I learned it when I was small. I mean, it's the first language I ever learned.
Okay, so
it's
you learned it
when I was a baby.
Yes.
I mean, it's my mother tongue. So that's the language I learned. And then I went to school with that language first. I mean, first writing and learning was in Farsi. And then I went to Belgium to join my father, who was there, because my parents were divorced. So I went to live with my father, who lived in Belgium, and I was 7. And when I arrived in Belgium, my father was very adamant that I learn French, and I was going to go to school in French, and that was very important for him that I master French very quickly, and be
French
able
only.
And French only. So he forbid Farsi at home for me. So I forgot Farsi. I was 7 years old and I was living in a French environment.
Wow.
And maybe it was also a bit traumatic to change a country, to change family, and change language all at the same time.
Oh.
And so I unlearned Farsi at the time. And then we went back to Iran.
Oh, wow. How old were you at that
9
time?
years old. So 2 years
just 2
later,
years.
yes, my father decided to go back and live in Iran. Wow. And so I went back to school again in Farsi. And I had completely forgotten Farsi. And nobody thought it was possible. Like people around me, like my family who was in Iran, and they were talking to me and said, how come you don't understand what we're talking,
Yes.
what we're saying? And so I had to relearn Farsi.
Oh. I hate to interrupt you, but I want to say that's the expectation sometimes we have from, let's say, heritage students.
Yes.
Like, you are Iranian, you should speak Farsi.
Yes.
Why don't you understand us? And it's probably more frustrating, right?
Yes, indeed. It's complicated because it's not something. I mean, even if you try, if circumstances of life haven't brought you to master that language, well, it's you can't help it. So yeah, and I think just we're jumping a generation. I think my daughters have this problem because you were mentioning that because as a consequence of this learning, unlearning, etc. Over the time, Farsi has not become a language of daily life, of connection and sharing and love.
Exactly.
And so I didn't feel like I speaking Farsi to my daughters.
I see.
And so they
Probably
don't speak
because of that.
Because of that.
9 years old.
Exactly. Sort
Feelings.
of trauma.
Yeah, trauma. Yeah,
and so they haven't learned Farsi at home with me. But still, when they introduce themselves in their student or work environment, and they say, and they have Persian names, so people would recognize or would ask them where they're from, and they have to talk about their Iranian origins, and people would expect them to speak Farsi,
exactly.
And unfortunately they don't. But yeah,
I see.
so
I see, and that's probably as a teacher, I would ask, and that's what we have. What I want to say is, sometimes when someone has an Arab name, don't expect they're gonna speak Arabic. Or know more than other students, and treat them differently.
Yeah.
Be gentle with them. Know that they probably passed. It's heritage students. They need special, not just treatment, but people to be aware, especially if they are in a class with others.
Yes.
So you cannot expect they know more, or why don't you know more? So making them feel bad, or not recognizing what they passed through. Something
Indeed, I think for me it's sometimes what you call heritage students, which I believe are people just like migrants, refugees, etc., have been through a journey, and that journey involves some specific relationship with language. So there is a baggage that comes with it that should not be ignored, and sometimes trauma and vulnerability associated with your relation with language.
I agree, and that's such a very important message that I think everyone should be aware of. Teachers, parents, all that. So we left it at 9 years old. So you lived. That's why I don't want to interrupt, but I wanted to emphasize this point because it's such an important point. So 9 years old, you're learning Farsi again.
But keeping the French this time, so like but probably not making the same mistake twice. But then that was then a sort of a bilingual environment. I grew up in for a few years, but unfortunately our stories, the Iranian story is not a very simple one. So then there was the revolution and the war, and then my family immigrated back to Belgium during the war. So we were kind of migrants, but lucky type of migrants, because we had already a foot in Belgium. My father had studied there. We already
Easier
knew
for you
French.
comparing to other-
Much easier for us than compared to people who go in a completely unknown country with an unknown language and have to build their networks. So that's why I won't call myself like I don't want to minimize the journey of people who lived through difficult stories. But still, when you as a teenager, when you when you're leaving a country at war and sort of coming in a country where teenagers seems to have a very futile preoccupations in their lives, like the brand of their jeans and the music they listen to, and so on. And you're coming from a country where we had to hide from the bombings, the Iraqi bombings on Tehran and things like that. So yeah, there's a distance between your experience and what you have to adapt to. And again, languages is something that you have to use to adapt. It's a tool that you use to communicate with people around you in a new country, new friends, new school, new environment. And again, it was another sort of like not an opportunity, another moment where Farsi was lost in favor of French.
I see.
And again, through some sort of a traumatic experience.
Did you feel? Sorry. Did you feel that your French was as good as your friends or like your classmates? Did you feel like your French is less? I won't compare it like Farisi here because probably you won't feel challenged by others. But how was that for you?
No,
at the age of 15, 16,
yeah,
right?
A bit younger.
Younger than that. Okay,
no,
so it's
I'm
still
lucky,
the critical period.
Yeah. I'm lucky to be a big reader, and I like to write. So for me, the rapport with language is also through reading and writing a lot of things, and somehow French has become dominant. Had become dominant already for that.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I felt okay with that. I was yeah.
That was good for you. That's awesome. That's fortunate. And you kept on learning. So probably at that age you start learning even other languages, right? Yeah. Like English and in school and all that. So you never felt these things. Okay, we're gonna fast forward.
Yeah.
A bit. And when you go to a different country, did you try always to learn a new language, or that was at some places you said like, there's no way, or I don't have time yet, or it was. Tell us more about it.
No, so I lived in 3 countries where I didn't automatically know the language of Laos, Cambodia, and Morocco. Of course, Morocco is French-speaking as well, but not only. And I know French, but I didn't speak Darija. So in these 3 countries, yes, I made the choice to try and learn the language. In Morocco, it was a bit delayed by COVID, I have to say, because I was intending to start, and then COVID came, and as you know, my official work, I have a lot to do with that pandemic.
That was not easy for
That was not a good
WHO.
time to start learning Darija. But I can say also why my first attempt in Darija failed, but we can talk about that as well. But before that, it was Laos and Cambodia, and yes, I always first thing we did was to try to learn the language.
So when we say Morocco is speaking French country, what would you say about this? Is like that Moroccans speak French, or so people when they hear that, so sometimes they feel okay, so Moroccans speak French. Is that what you want to say, or something else?
I think it's easy when you live in Rabat, when you arrive in Rabat and live in Rabat, to specifically to ignore
some specific area in Rabat,
or specific areas in Rabat. There were places where I live sort of like not feel the necessity to learn Darija. Yes. My first attempts, because you're my Darija teacher, but you're not my first Darija teacher. I tried with other teachers before. And I had a difficulty with most teachers, all of them except you. This is to praise you.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you so much.
None of them really understood how much Farsi, knowing Farsi and being able to read and write, actually, it puts me in a weird place for learning Darija, because I know complicated words because they're the same in Farsi and they come from Fusha, but I don't know the basic daily things. So either teachers were misled by how much I knew and failed to teach me the basic, or they were trying to teach me to read and write, which I know already. So for a good teacher to adapt to my complicated situation, I won't say level, because sometimes the very basic Darija thing I don't understand, but then I'm able to catch a sentence, a more complicated sentence, just because it's the same as Farsi, not because I know Darija.
I will talk about the report between Arabic or Darija, Moroccan Arabic, and Farsi or Fusha. But okay, saying that you never you speak French fluently, someone will say, okay, then why would you need to learn Darija if you live in this specific neighborhoods with everyone learn or know French?
Yeah. But first, because there's more to Morocco than Rabat, or certain neighborhoods of Rabat. And when you get out of Agdal or Swissy or even the Medina, you realize that, yes, if you want to connect with people, you need more than French. But also because my journey through language shows me how language is a means of connecting more than communicating. I mean, it's a means of communicating, but it's also a means of connecting. And I feel that, I can see people around me who speak very, very good French, Moroccans around me who speak very, very good French, who would have a full conversation in French we're at the restaurant, etc. And among them, when they want to tell a funny joke, or something quite personal, they shift to Darija, even for a few words, or half a sentence. So there is something intimate
you will always be missing if you don't know Darija.
That you will be missing if you don't know Darija. And so like, oh, that joke seemed funny, or you shifted to Darija, but it's impossible in French. And then sort of like there is a layer of culture, of belonging to Morocco that you will never reach if you stick to French.
Awesome. Since you start learning Darija, what has been unfolded for you in terms of the culture and everything? So since you learned Darija, what have been, like we can say, unfolded in terms of the culture, in terms of Morocco itself? Can you elaborate to that a bit?
Well, you said since you learned Darija, as if I had learned and it's done.
No, I know. I wouldn't speak. Let's not say level, but I know how much effort have been spent and all that, and even the level. So it's what I expected in terms of starting to capture some of the subtle connections between people. But I think I still need to progress more to have that connection as well. I don't know if you understand what I mean. Is that I can now understand some of the conversations my friends are having among them. Wow, that's
some
a
of
big
them,
thing.
not all of them, but some
course.
of them, and sort of like then I have a sense of, when they're joking on where they're sharing something sort of like subtle, but I'm not at a level where I can enter that conversation yet. So I'm looking forward to be able to, because then I still feel like I'm a little bit of an outsider looking at something that's happening in front of my eyes, and I want to progress more to be able to connect, also be there to what is happening there.
Well, I heard, well, now I don't know if I have to say this or not, but I heard very nice things about you giving like this introduction in Arabic at
Thanks
your
to
work.
you.
And I mean, not to me, not to you. The effort that you put in terms of that, like, does it even reflect or help in your work, like learning Arabic in Morocco?
Yes, it does. You know, it does, because sometimes you are in a meeting where things have to be in Arabic, and I want to be able to reach a level where I don't need somebody to whisper the translation in my ear, and I think it's always artificial when you connect through a translator. I'm not sure I will be able to reach that level yet one day, but because it's difficult and it requires time and practice. But it's important to be where you are, to be connected to the place you live in, to the people you work with. And I know that most Moroccans who work with me or I work with are fully bilingual. I mean, I wouldn't need to be able to speak to them in Darija. But sometimes it's more comfortable to be doing that. That's and really I also want to be people to be comfortable around me, not to always have to
be so formal.
Be formal or make efforts to shift to another language if they don't want to. And
exactly.
So if I
That's
can
really nice of you. And it's what reactions do you receive when you speak Darija or speak Arabic with people?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends. I think people really appreciate the effort of trying to learn and speak. But they express it differently. and sometimes they sometimes they express it by laughing, which can be interpreted as mockery, but most of the time it's not. But it is difficult for the person who is trying to not interpret that as somebody making fun of you. So that's really off-putting when it happens. It's very difficult to do it again when somebody has laughed. When you are to have the courage to try it again. But still, that one is still manageable. I think what is complicated is people who speak very good French and who automatically shift back to French, so that they want to make me feel comfortable. They don't help me progress in Darija.
I see. I see. So you wish that Moroccans, when they see you trying to speak Darija, to keep going with you in Darija.
Yes.
And that you will feel supported like that.
Yes,
So
exactly.
this is awesome. So this is, please, my fellow Moroccans, do so with anyone who are trying to learn the language and show support. I know I won't speak for all Moroccans. I speak for myself, but I love when I see someone put in all the effort. It brings me so much joy, and I know a lot of Moroccan do, and they express that by laughing or wow, or they praise even when you say just salam alaikum, labas, something like that. Now I want to talk about Morocco. 5 years. How was that? If times go back, would you do it again?
Oh yes, and I hope that time stops and that can
really.
Yeah.
So you lived in so many countries. What's special here?
It's very interesting what you say. I lived 8 years in Geneva. In France bordering Switzerland. I lived in France and I crossed the border to go to work in Switzerland.
How can someone give up on chocolate?
In 8 months, I'm just getting 8 years, 8 months. In 8 months in Morocco, I made more friends than in 8 years in Geneva.
Wow, that's a big statement.
It's a big statement, and I can tell you, it's been. I mean, theater has been a part of that a lot. We can talk about it, before Geneva, I lived in Southeast Asia in 2 countries, Laos and Cambodia, which are beautiful countries. Cambodia has been a life-changing experience for me as well. Wow. As well as Morocco, because Morocco has been as well. But these are countries where the languages are difficult to learn. They're very, very difficult to learn. It's a completely different script, neither European script or Arabic script. People do speak English, but it's not as native for them as French is for many Moroccans. So it's not as easy. Mm-hmm. So you end up living in an expatriate community, connecting with Khmer or Lao people, mostly through work and less through friendships and so on. There's a little bit of that, but not as much. While in Morocco, it's truly a multilingual, multicultural country. It's like at the crossroad of Europe and Africa and the Arab world and Amazigh and the sea and the mountain and the forest. So everything sort of like crosses here. Wow. So I don't feel out of place. Because you never feel out of place at the crossword, because it can lead anywhere.
Yeah, that's really nice.
So that's that, and the people are embodying that very much, embodying that multiculturalism. Even if they only speak Darija and they live in rural areas, or somehow they have been in touch or in connection with this global world they live in, much more than many other people in other countries. Yeah.
So they manage to make you feel welcome.
They manage to make you feel welcome, but they also manage to be part of it, not just outside of it. Somehow, that magic happens in Morocco. I can't tell you how or why.
Place in Morocco you feel that was very surprising to you, like in a good way, or in a different way? I don't know, but go ahead.
Oh, wow, that's a question. What place? I mean, geographical place? Now, I recently fell in love with Tirmert.
Tirmert. Where is that? I don't know.
It's near Guelmim.
Umayma, do you know where Tirmert is?
Yes, well, you need to know. My friends from Tirmert would be very happy to hear me talk about it.
Tirmert.
Tirmert is an oasis in Guelmim, near Guelmim Wednoun. Guelmim Wednoun. It's 30 kilometers, I think, south of Guelmim. If I remember well, it's 30 kilometers or more or less. So it's one of the last oases before the desert, where it's beautiful.
Very nice, very nice.
But not just beautiful.
What's nice about it?
What's nice about it? I don't know. It's green in the middle of
the desert.
Of dryness. It's incredibly welcoming environment and people. But it also touched me because of the situation that that oasis and many oases in Morocco are going through. Of course, climate change, lack of water, dryness, repeated fires,
and people are still there.
Agriculture that is draining some of the water resources, and it's still there. But how long is it going to hold?
I see.
If the world doesn't look at climate issues, at drought and water issues more closely. I was there recently, and I felt that I was in a place that maybe in 20 years will not be there anymore, will not exist anymore, and that there's this feeling of connection, but also, what are we doing about this?
Sure,
you know, we as humans
exactly.
on the planet, we need to be aware that these places have existed, that they are rich and very powerful in terms of transmitting heritage to the world,
Yes.
and they may disappear before our children disappear.
Yes.
And that's a tragedy.
Well, that's really that's a tragedy, but that's beautiful what you're saying. That draw attention for Moroccans, for people who live here, people who fall in love with the country, to put like hands together and try to do something very good for these people and land and everything.
Yeah.
You mentioned theater. What? And I know how much you love like theater, and you're connected to theater. Theater and language, do they go along together? Is it? What would you tell us about this?
Yeah, I'll get back just to theater, but there's one last thing I want to say about the Tirmert. There are a lot of places you go in Morocco that feel very powerful, very, very beautiful, like you know, history, like the Fez Medina, Chefchaouen, Marrakesh, etc. But there's a feeling of sort of power there. But if you go to Tirmert, there's a vulnerability. And vulnerability always touches me to a certain extent. That's what I wanted to close on Tirmert. Theatre. Yes, theatre is a very important part of my life. We talk about everything aside my job today, which is fine. I feel that theatre, along other means of expression, is a way to convey messages, to ask sometimes questions about our society, our cultures, our choices, etc. And in different ways than when you write a question, you know, in more subtle forms,
Yes.
through expressions, body expressions, face expressions, music that surrounds movements, and you know, being funny, being tragic, being poetic. So there are many ways through theatre that you can touch that expression.
I see. And is it a dream, we would say, or like a goal to play speaking Darija?
Speaking Darija. Well, I've been doing theatre with a group, as you know, which is called Rasif. Which in Fusha means sidewalk.
Exactly,
right? Rasif. So that we have last year and this year played a play on positive masculinities and toxic masculinities, which you saw.
Yes.
So when you touch that subject, which is a subject of you know, why men sometimes behave
the
way men behave, even hurting themselves in the way they behave with toxic masculinities, you know, trying to perform, trying to be the best, and so on and so forth, and also hurt women in the process. If you play that in French, in Rabat, most of the time you're talking to people who already know these things.
The wrong target.
The wrong target. You know, you are, and it's okay. It's okay to have that conversation with someone who has already thought about that, and you can further the conversation. But it's also important if you want to reach people who have never thought about that, and they can have an aha moment when they see such a play and say, oh, am I behaving like this, or do I know someone who's behaving like this, or have I been behaving like this in the past? So to be able to do that, if you really want to reach certain category of people, or even if they speak French, be able to put it in a funny way, but sort of like that intimate joke that you would be telling in Darija that I wouldn't understand, then
the message
will reach them
differently,
differently
yeah,
in Darija.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, as you're talking about right now, I feel like language and emotions are like mixed a lot. And you talked before about trauma towards language. And as a parent and as also a child who grew up in bilingual society, and like even now seeing it in Morocco, how bilingual or probably even trilingual now,
Yes.
or in a different places, what would you, or like, what would be the advice, if you can give an advice to someone who will raise children in this kind of environment and live in this environment, to what attitude they should have towards language? This is quite a big question.
Yeah, it's a huge question.
But what insight would you give them based on your personal experience?
Well, I don't know. My first reaction would be to say, follow your heart. But then that's what I did, and I kind of failed to transmit Farsi to my own children by following my heart. So it's more complicated than just that. I think it's important to make sure that your children are open-minded towards languages. I was telling the story off camera, but I think it's nice to say it on camera. That I recently went to see a show about Antar. And
Antar وعبلة.
Antar وعبلة. And in that show, there was at one moment a very evil king who was Persian. And it happens a lot that the evils in some Arab stories are Persian. On the contrary, in many Iranian stories, the evil king is Arab. In ancient stories that come from our mythology, the evil king is Arab. And somehow there has been an antagonism that has been built up between these two languages to a certain extent. And I'm now learning Darija, and I realize how much these two languages are connected, because there's so many words in Darija that I understand because I know them in Farsi. So that openness, instead of saying no, Arabic is the or whichever language is the language of the evil, that openness is the most important thing. And also, I also feel that just the last thing is that it's so much easier to connect with a language when you are surrounded by it, not theoretically in a book. I mean, it's important to do that, but it's also so much lively when it triggers you on a daily basis. So that's also sort of like being able to allow your children to be exposed to those triggers is important. So.
That's really beautiful. Thank you for giving us this insight. It's really valuable. I will ask you a question, and you can think about it if you never thought about it before. What would be your your favorite word in Arabic?
Sahbi.
Quick.
Yes.
So, Sahbi. Why Sahbi?
For many reasons. First, I arrived in Rabat. I lived in Agdal, near, the smoothie shop, Sahbi. You know that?
Oh, I know Sahbi. That's free advertisement.
Free advertisement. No, but yes, sorry. I like their smoothies.
Sorry, that's good.
And
we like to support local businesses.
It's okay. So for
I know him.
At the beginning, I was alone here, so I didn't have a lot of friends. It's normal when you live in a country, you move to a new country, and I always would go to that smoothie shop to have my smoothie, and it's only later on that I learned the meaning of their
brand.
Their brand, Sahabi. So I thought, yeah, it was funny that
it's my friend.
When I arrived in Rabat and I started going there without knowing what it meant, and I had not many friends and connections, I actually had a friend there.
That was your first friend.
That was my first friend.
Yeah,
was
awesome.
the strawberry smoothie.
That's really nice. And you mentioned that you made a lot of friends comparing to other places.
Yes.
In Rabat, what are the activities that you actually, or someone can enjoy in Rabat?
Yes.
Living here.
Yeah, I think it's a very lively city. And I challenge everyone. I had a lot of people, since 5 years I live here, a lot of people who came and left, foreigners, and a lot of people tell me, well, there's nothing to do. And then what I do is when they do that, is that by WhatsApp every day I send them something to do in Rabat on that day, either a concert or a theater play or a movie or
yoga. I know you're
yoga.
A big yoga
fan. They're absolutely fantastic people. I need to do a little bit more advertisement. Morocco walking tours. It's a group of young people in love with Rabat who are organizing beautiful walking tours in the city.
That's nice.
So you can go and discover the city completely differently through them. This is one example of things to do in
Rabat. Yeah.
Theatre was important because, as I said, I arrived here and I didn't have personal friends. I had a lot of professional connections. And it was the first time I was moving in a country without my children. My children are grown up and they are now living their own lives. When you move to a new country with children, school is an obvious connection. They go to school, so through the school you meet other parents and so on and so forth.
True, and now you did not have this.
Without having that connection, you have to find other ways of connecting with people outside of work, because you don't want to be only working.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. So the first thing I did is that I joined an improvisation theatre group. And that's an awesome experience. Go and see them if you can. They're called Zenbumba. Zenbumba.
Zimbumba.
Zenbumba, not Zimbumba. They changed the name and they're now Zenbumba. But so what happened there is that for them, I was not a foreigner. I was not a Moroccan. I was not the representative of WHO. I was just a friend doing theatre with them, doing improvisation theatre with them. So this is, I think, how we should always welcome friends.
Oh, that's really nice.
Without their social position, racial identity, where they come from, what they're doing in life. Just connecting through something that you like to share with them and do with them is the most beautiful way of connecting with people. And this is how you actually make real friends.
That's really nice. That's really nice. And I'm happy that it's feasible in Morocco. By the way, Zimbumbah, it's something that we use for paper, scissor, rock. And then we do like, I don't know, I forgot these little things. Now with technology, people just take their phones. These one are like the games. Exactly, Zimbumbah. Well, thank you so much. Any last message you want to tell people about learning a language? Easy journey? It's a fun one. Why did you even decide to learn Arabic? I didn't want to ask you this question at first, but we can end with it.
Well, no, it's worth the try. It might be very difficult sometimes. I know that the reason why it's very difficult for me is because I don't have enough time to learn what you teach me. I improvise a lot. Just to sit and learn very scholarly what you teach me. I wish I had more time, but so it can be difficult because of that. It can be difficult because the other reasons that I mentioned, like people making fun of you when you try, not fun, but laughing when you try, or being impatient and they feel more uncomfortable shifting to French or to English right away because the conversation is more easy. And they speak better French than you speak Darija, or they speak better English than you speak Darija, so it's easier. So all of this make it sometimes difficult. Sometimes you feel that you will not. I sometimes feel that I learn and forget right away, that it doesn't stay with me. But then all of a sudden, it comes back.
I know this.
So you have to give that opportunity to happen. Give space for that opportunity to happen. It's easier said than done, but it's really worth the try because it gives you a richness, a new flavor to the country you live in or the people you want to connect to.
That's really beautiful. Thank you so much. Time flew. And I learned so much, as I always do, and I hope and I know that whoever listened to this episode will take a lot of inspiration and insight from it. Thank you so much, Lila Maryam.
Thank you to you for having me in this podcast.
Thank you, and see you inshallah in another episode.